Hello. Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. You've heard the expression like an oasis in a desert. Well, today our story takes place here in southern British Guiana, just a few degrees north of the equator, in an area that looks like a desert in an oasis. Yes, I meant to say it that way. A desert in an oasis. Something like this.
It's an area of dry grassland along the Rupununi River, and it's almost completely surrounded by an oasis of lush green forest. We're not sure how it formed, but we do know that it's a paradise for animals, especially the cats. Animals are plentiful because it's one of the few openings in this dense layer of forest for hundreds of miles. It's a paradise for cats because they can come out of the forests, down the rivers and creeks, and have perfect cover from which to ambush their prey.
Yes, it's an exciting land, full of adventure, for all of the South American cats are found here in abundance. The margay, the ocelot, the jaguarundi, the puma, and the powerful jaguar. They're all killers of the Rupununi, an area so remote that it's almost impossible to enter except from the air. There it is, flat savanna surrounded by dense forests. The only highway here is the Rupununi River. The land along its banks is wild, primitive country, teeming with strange, exotic animal life. Here the gaudy feathered toucan lives. It's a wonder he can fly with such an enormous beak. But because it's porous and filled with air cells, it's surprisingly light, and handy too for picking berries and fruit off trees. I soon spot a margay cat cooling off in the water. He's one of the smallest killers of the Rupununi. Higher up the bank, an armadillo hunts for grubs. His armored shell is strong, but his brain is weak. Another killer lurks nearby, a boa constrictor. The armadillo is smart enough to get away from the boa. He heads down the bank and runs blindly towards the cat. The hit-and-run driver keeps on going, leaving a bewildered victim in his wake. Suddenly, the margay sees real danger approaching. The cat better watch out. The boa's dangerous. He can crush the cat to death. At a time like this, it doesn't pay for a cat to be curious. That's too close for comfort. Nearby, the armadillo is back again, digging for grubs. The margay is mad, and somebody's going to get it. That shell's mighty tough. The armadillo's defenses are too strong for him. It's been a tough day.
While Marlin traveled by river, I explored the interior with Stan Brock, a rancher who knows the animals of the area well. Beneath darkening skies, the rolling savanna of the Rupununi stretches out below us. Here, along the tree-lined rivers, the big cats hunt. As I scan the river, a puma stalks along its banks. One of the largest cats of the Rupununi, The puma is wary and seldom seen. Leaving the hill, we race across the savanna to get a closer look at him. He seems to be on the hunt. Stan sees a movement, an opossum running for his life. The old possum finds the safest refuge he can in the branches of a nearby tree, and then stands dead still, hoping the puma won't see him. But it's no good. The cat is after him. Old Possum shows his teeth, but that won't frighten a puma. The possum's picked a good tree because the branch won't support the heavy cat. All he has to do is hang on. This looks like a tied ball game. The puma couldn't have been too hungry. He'd have made a meal of the possum had he wanted to, but it was just too difficult. This time, old Possum won. In order to explore this vast area of open savanna more completely, Marlin continued by river while I traveled on horseback, past the Conacook Mountains, into the South Savannas, and across the treacherous Rupununi River. The riverbed is rocky, so we let the horses pick their way across. Stan and his Indian cowboy Olaf have seen cats here before. It's not long before Stan sees something in the soft sand, the tracks of an ocelot. They're still fresh. The cat who had been drinking here could not have left the riverbank more than about 2 hours ago. The search takes us into the grasslands. Soon we find the next piece of evidence that our killer passed this way. An armadillo shell, skinned as clean and bright as a silver dollar. Olaf thinks the cat went westward. He's ridden these savannas using this strange toehold style of the Amerindian cowboy for many years and should know. Stan doesn't agree. After eating, the ocelot would want to hole up in some place nearby and sleep. Stan thinks he headed in a more easterly direction. I decide we'd best split up. That way there's a better chance of our finding him. Stan goes only a short distance before he sees the ocelot. He turns and heads in our direction. the chase is on. Despite a heavy meal, he manages to stay ahead of us. We have to follow him right to the edge of the forest before we get a good look at him.
I continued my journey upriver, keeping alert for any signs of animal life. Far ahead, a tapir is swimming. He's one of the strangest animals of the Rupununi. He looks like a cross between a pig and an elephant with his short trunk-like nose. But of course he isn't. Farther up the river, another tapir is feeding along the bank. Not far behind him, a puma comes down to drink. Immediately, he senses danger. Before the big cat sees him, the tapir quietly eases himself into the water. Now he sees him. The tapir decides it's much healthier on the other side of the river. A frustrated killer continues his search for food. Higher up the bank, a Muscovy duck sees the puma. The killer moves closer to the duck's hiding place. It's now or never. The puma has lost again. But there's a second duck still hiding in the grass. The cat hasn't seen it yet. Instead of staying safely hidden, the duck breaks from cover. The puma was just too smart for his victim. The duck panicked. The killer won.
As we cross the savannah, I suddenly see two of the strangest animals of the Rupununi, giant anteaters. Although they sometimes feed on ants, their main diet is termite eggs. One is getting hungry. It seems that just by sniffing the nest, the anteater can tell if it contains eggs. The entrance is not made by termites, but by a rodent who shares the nest with them. There are no eggs here. He decides to take a nap, using his bushy tail to protect him from the sun. Meanwhile, the other one has struck it rich. With his long, slender snout that resembles the nozzle of a hose, he pokes deep into the termite nest. his strong front claws help him dig down to the well-protected eggs. He licks up the termite eggs with his sticky tongue. Although his snout is over a foot long, his mouth is not much bigger than the end of your thumb. Marlin had reported that this is a good hunting ground for cats. Near the riverbank, I spot a sudden movement. A puma is on the prowl. Although he's a real killer, he's not usually dangerous to man. However, he's so wary and difficult to observe, I want to make quite sure he doesn't see me. Then, an armadillo comes blundering by. The drama of hunter and hunted ends. The puma returns to his lair. Now all the animals can breathe freely, safe until the next time they hear the chilling cry of this killer of the Rupununi.
Out on the open savanna, another killer continues the endless hunt for food. The jaguar, the most feared and the fiercest of all of the South American cats. Unlike pumas, who are not usually dangerous, the jaguar has been known to attack man, ripping him to pieces. I follow this one, keeping a safe distance. He'll eat anything from rodents to ranch cattle. A capybara, favorite food of jaguars. Wearing his crown of water plants almost like camouflage, the capybara swims to safety. Although jaguars are excellent swimmers, they usually won't kill in water, preferring to hunt on land, their natural element. Here comes an anteater, looking somewhat like an old-fashioned quill pen on 4 legs. This is a young jaguar, not yet fully grown. The anteater is old, tough, and experienced. Those claws can tear down a termite nest or rip up a jaguar. The experienced anteater with his long claws is just too much for the young cat. The victor, bruised and battered, goes into the water to cool off. Meanwhile, the hungry jaguar sees something else and freezes. Another capybara, but he's too far from the water. The jaguar is taking no chances. Silently, he creeps forward. There are few places in the wild kingdom that have more cats walking their paths and trails than the savannas of the Rupununi. These cats and other predators help keep overpopulation and diseased animals in check. Only as long as the killers of the Rupununi continue to prowl will there remain a paradise for all the animals in this hidden corner of the wild kingdom.